Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Oklahoma, Texas roster battle going down. Dill, this has been on the schedule for a couple of weeks. The boys fired up to get into this one. The first rule of the roster battles, let it fly in the comment section. Whether you agree with the boys, whether you disagree, whether you're mixing it up with the opposing fan base, that is the beauty of college football. It's the beauty of doing these roster battles. Fired up to get into it. Before we do it, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys. It's been a blast taking deep dives into both of these programs over the last couple of weeks. Can't thank you guys enough for all the support you guys have shown. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. More importantly, let it fly in the comment section. This is confrontation. There are a lot of ways that you could go both ways for these position groups. Let us hear in the comment section. Till I said this yesterday when we're doing another one of these. Notre Dame fan called me nitwit in the comment section the other day. It's part of the game. That's the beauty of doing these things. So let it fly in the comment section. Dill, let's get into this. Stacking these teams position group by position group. Let's start in the quarterback room. Jackson Arnold, Quinn Ewers. Who you got here?
I think it's got to be Quinn Ewers now. And you just see the development he made from 2022 to 2023. Came a long way. Raised that completion percentage up almost 10 points. That's really, really impressive. I thought he was playing that like the way you kind of want your top end talent to play at that quarterback spot. So again, Jackson Arnold's got a super high ceiling, does have probably a little bit more of an element of athleticism and running threat in his game. Well, Quinn Ewers did start to build a little bit of that last year. So credit to him for that. But I just think Jackson Arnold, you got to prove it. You got to prove that you're there. Quinn Ewers is kind of at that level right now.
Quinn Ewers can boogie. He got his body right in 2023. I'm with you. You got to go Quinn Ewers, at least sitting here early May, right? And the Oklahoma fans, they know I'm fired up about Jackson Arnold. We've talked about this kid since he's been a junior in high school. Ton of talent, checks every single box that you want. But, Dill, you said it best. Quinn Ewers took a massive jump from 2022 to 2023. What happens if he takes another jump in 2024? You're looking at one of the best quarterbacks in the country as of early May. You have to go with Quinn Ewers in that Texas quarterback room. And honestly, if we're evaluating quarterback rooms, you got Arse Man in there too. It is an absolutely loaded. This Texas quarterback room might be the best in the country. Now, Dill, moving to the wide receiver room, I'm going to give you the T-box here first. Texas, Oklahoma, who you got?
Give me the Horns. And I know you might disagree with me a little bit, but this Horns wide receiver room, I know they got to replace a lot of production, including Jatavion Sanders at that tight end spot. Bring in Isaiah Bond. To me, he's one of the better wide receivers in college football. I don't think he's always had the chance to show it over the last couple of years at Alabama. Some inconsistencies at quarterback and some other parts of their offense. But when him and Milroe were kind of dialed in towards the end of the year, you started to see that ability to get open down the field, the ability to make plays with the catch or the ball after the catch. I really like his game. And then Silas Bolden, I think, is going to do a lot to replace some of that middle of the field production that they're going to lose with Whittington and Sanders. So I think they have the young guys, Ryan Wingo, Jonte Cook, I think can be involved, especially Jonte Cook. I think he might be the number 2 wideout on this team. Ooh. So they got a lot of young, explosive talent, have a bunch of veterans who I'm really comfortable with. And Amari Nieblack, I don't want to ignore it at the tight end spot. I really like what he can do. So I think they were able to replace what they lost. I just think this is a loaded wide receiver room.
So when you said Isaiah Bond didn't get the opportunity to really show what he was made of because he was catching passes from Jalen Milroe, that's 100% true. Know who also didn't have a great opportunity because he was rotting away in a Purdue offense that absolutely sucked was Deion Burks. And for the Oklahoma fans, you got to see during the spring game what Deion Burks is capable of. We've done film studies on him. I think he's one of the best wide receivers in college football. There's actually a chance that I throw a futures bet on him to win a Heisman Trophy. So many different ways that you can get Deion Burks involved in this offense. And I was thinking about this, and Texas fans can light me up in the comment section. It would be completely fair. Is he the best wide receiver on this football field? And I know you're a huge fan of Isaiah Bond, but I think Deion Burks doesn't get nearly enough credit for how good he is. And then you start digging into the rest of the room. Jalil Farouk. Can we get back to 2022 version of that cat? Andrew Anthony coming back from injury was one of the better receivers in the Big 12 last year. Nick Anderson, really, really good working vertically. He's got a quarterback now that can push the ball down the field.
Now I'm sticking with Texas because I do think Texas is loaded, but I feel like you're bearing the lead a little bit. I think you got 2 guys in Jaquez Petaway and Brennan Thompson. Shout out former Longhorn. I think those are 2 guys I want to see involved in the offense to some extent. just to add a little bit of that deep element into the game. And again, I think Deion Burks can do it. But with Deion Burks, you kind of have other options. I think he can play more roles. I think those two can add something in terms of getting the ball down the field. Jackson Arnold's got a howitzer, so you want to use it. I'd like to see those two involved in this, especially Jaquez Petaway. I'm really interested to see what he can bring this team.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways this Oklahoma wide receiver room can attack it. This is what I almost
Same
went
thing about the
Oklahoma.
Horns, though, too.
Yeah, I almost went Oklahoma because, like, I feel like they just don't get in the conversation of some of the top wide receiver rooms in the country. Like, we all know Texas is considered that. I think they're a top 10 unit by far. I think Oklahoma is also a top 10 unit. They'll go into the running back room. I love both of these running backs, Gavin Sawchuk, CJ Baxter. I'm going to decide. I got my answer in my notes. I might just fight you to fight you here. So I'll give you the T-box here. Who you taking in that running back room, Texas, Oklahoma?
I got Texas just because I'm a little more comfortable with what they have behind. And I like Sawchuk. I'd probably take CJ Baxter just straight up. I think the way he played as a true freshman, really impressive. But then I think you look Jaden Blue, some of the other young guys, Wisner, I think is a good player. I'm just a little bit more comfortable, frankly, with the depth that Texas has. And I think CJ Baxter, probably the best running back on this field. So I'll go Texas, but I'm with you. Sawchuk, like when he's on, he looks really good. I just think you want to see him be on a little bit more. Almost.
Well, I think he was battling some, like, this Oklahoma room was kind of battling some injuries last year. Him, Tawi Walker. A healthy Gavin Sawchuk is an electric factory with the football in his hands. And then you have a true freshman in Taylor Tatum, who I think is an absolute stud coming into the summer. I love Javante Barnes. I don't know how much we'll see of him this year because of how loaded that running back room is. I'm going to go Oklahoma here. I love Gavin Sawchuk. I think a healthy Gavin Sawchuk is really good. But again, both of these running back rooms, really, really good. Going to the defensive side we got to skip the offensive line here. Offensive line, I think it's Texas. I don't think a lot of Oklahoma fans would fight you on that. You look at this Texas offensive line, it was one of the better units we saw in 2023. I think it's going to be one of the better units we see in 2024. I think a real differentiating factor is you have a lot more NFL talent, I think, in this Texas offensive line, like Calvin Banks Jr., DJ Campbell. But you made a really good point before we went live. This unit has played together for a really long time. And you look back at Michigan in 2023, how important it was for offensive line units to have a lot of reps with each other. The combination of probably not a lot more talent, but more talent, more continuity. You got to go with this Texas offensive line.
Yeah, and I would echo you the same way. I mean, Oklahoma, I'm less concerned about than I was probably at the
3 months ago is a problem.
3 months ago, I was looking, I was like, oh, what are they going to do? I didn't think they did quite enough at certain spots in the transfer portal. But again, I thought some of the guys looked good in the spring game. I really like the way Jake Taylor played. I think that's huge that you think you have a starting caliber tackle with him because that was obviously the major position of concern. But I don't know. At the end of the day, Texas, they're top 3 offensive line in the country, kind of what you said. Ultra good top end talent with Kelvin Banks and DJ Campbell and continuity, as good a continuity as you'll probably have on the field with that, aside from that right tackle spot. So you
got to give Brent Venables his flowers. I think they really did it. Now you bring in Hickman from SMU, like that's a starting caliber interior offensive lineman. Like, I think Brent Venables did what he needed to do in the portal, but I mean, there's a reason Texas didn't go to the portal for an offensive lineman. They didn't need to. It was already a loaded room. Defensive line. I'll start with this one. This will probably get some pushback. I think you're going to push me back on it too. I'm going to go with Texas. And I think I'm going to go Texas because, yes, you have some question marks replacing Byron Murphy, replacing Tavondre Sweat, two, absolute alphas from the middle of that defensive line. What made that defensive line so special? I think they did really good work in the portal, kind of replacing some of that depth. And it's not as good as it was last year, but I think it's still pretty solid, right? Alfred Collins probably should be in that top end of the, one of the top defensive linemen in the country. You bring in Jermaine Lole from Oklahoma. That certainly helps your depth. But what puts me over the top for Texas that I don't think a lot of people are talking about is their edge rushers get a lot better, right? You look at Barron Sorrell, you kind of know what you're getting. A guy like Ethan Burke looks like he's going to take that step. You bring in Trey Moore from UTSA, one of the best pure pass rushers you see in the country. And then you got to talk about true freshman Colin Simmons, who, if you watch the spring game, that cat looks a little different coming off the line of scrimmage. You talk about the twitch, the burst that he has. I think that Texas gets a lot better at the edge rusher position. I don't think they take as much of a step back on the inside. I'm going to go with Texas on the defensive line. Oklahoma fans light me up for it.
Yeah, I'm going Oklahoma. And I think I think Oklahoma's edge rushers are also really, really good. You have a couple
Yeah.
experienced guys, Trace Ford, Ethan Downs, who more physical, a little better against the run. But the way our Mason Thomas is starting to look, the way PJ Adebawore is starting to look, I mean, those guys are starting to look like those true, really dynamic edge rushers that I thought was missing a little bit at Oklahoma last year. And frankly, I just think they're better on the inside. I think they have more top end guys. I think bringing in Dominic Williams, huge. I love DeJoun Terry. I think he is criminally underrated. I was watching the Texas game back a little bit. He was a monster in that game. He looked really, really good. So I just think you're a little bit more talented in that middle. Have some young guys, obviously, with guys like Stone and Jackson. So you have a really talented interior, a really good edge play. I just think Oklahoma is a little bit more complete and a little bit deeper than what Texas.
So two things. I have a question for you and also a comment. I'll go with my comment first. That is Dominic Williams, DeJoun Terry is one of the better interior defensive line duos I think you see in the country. I think DeJoun Terry is being criminally slept on. I would echo that. Second question for you. Who's better, Alfred Collins, Dominic Williams? You're starting to build a defensive line. Who are you taking?
I'm probably taking Collins. Collins is
Come to my side.
I don't want to know. I'm not coming after Collins. I don't think you have that proven play around him. I liked some of the transfers they brought in. Again, I don't know that those are like Texas dominant guys. It's see what they're building with their young guys. Those guys are going to be awesome. I think January is really, really good. I just don't know that you have that second hammer on in the middle. I don't know.
I love that. I just wanted to hear you say it. I think I knew you like
Alfred Collins is bad. Alfred Collins is awesome. He just doesn't get enough love because the other two were really good too last year.
Yeah, I knew you liked Alfred Collins. I kind of knew what the answer was going to be there. All right, going to the linebacker room. Two studs, like Anthony Hill Jr. and Danny Stutzman. That's two of the better linebackers you're going to see in all of college football. Dill, I'm going to go Oklahoma one because I think Danny Stutzman might be my favorite linebacker in all of college football heading into 2024. But to really put it over the edge, I trust linebacker 2, 3, 4 on Oklahoma a lot more than I do at Texas. Right? You look at guys like Kip Lewis or Kobe McKenzie. I personally have him starting over Jaren Kanak, but Jaren Kanak's a damn good linebacker as well. You have a stud with Danny Stutzman. I think you got multiple linebackers that could really take that step going into 2024. For that reason, I'll go Oklahoma, but Texas fans, y'all know how I feel about Anthony Hill Jr. I think he is an absolute dog.
And that's a fair way to look at it. You'd have two no doubt hammers, no doubt like kind of all-American kind of guys with Anthony Hill Jr. and Danny Stutzman. Maybe a little bit more dynamic with Anthony Hill Jr. in terms of what he can do rushing the passer, playing space. But like it's really splitting hairs saying one's better than the other. I think they're both really, really good. I'm kind of with you. I think Kobe McKenzie personally is going to be that guy, and that's just kind of watching the spring game and some of the moments from last year. I just think he can be that second running mate to Danny Stutzman. I really like his game. I kind of want to see him there. And I'm with you. I just think you look at those second tier guys on both teams, or that second guy, if you will. I just think Oklahoma's got more options, maybe a little higher ceiling.
So going to the secondary, and I'll start with this, and I'm going to put you on the tee box first. Two secondaries that I think are way better than they performed last year. I think both Texas and Oklahoma fans can agree on that. Look at me trying to middle it here. I'll ask you right now, Texas, Oklahoma in the secondary, who you got?
I'm leaning Texas just because I think the talent is off the charts good for Texas. You're kind of right. Like two teams that criminally underperformed, I think, in the secondary, both really talented. I like that Oklahoma, frankly, did something about it. It feels like bringing in Zach Alley, maybe have a little bit different flavor in terms of how he uses those safeties to play the middle of the field, which Oklahoma, I haven't seen a team struggle that much covering the middle of the field in a while. So I like that they did that. I think Malik Muhammad's a first-round player. I think DJ or Derek Williams could be up there in that first-round category, maybe day two at worst. And same goes for Makuba. And Gavin Holmes is going to get picked. I don't know if it'll be a super high pick, but he's a draft pick. Shout out his Wake Forest days. I think he can really play. Ran Terrence Brooks out, it seems like. I just think this secondary talent in Texas is just unbelievably good. Now, again, Kwiatkowski and his defensive staff need to get better play from them. They need to do a better job developing him, playing as a team. But that secondary, I'll bet on the talent for Texas.
Yeah, that's one of those units that you just want to see play less like the sum of the parts and more as like a whole. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that one made sense. I think I messed that one up.
I get the gist.
Anyways, you guys get me at home. All right. One other guy you didn't point out, Jahdae Barron, I think is a stud.
Yes, he is.
I'm
very
gonna go Oklahoma, and you said it off the rip, and I'm gonna echo that. Oklahoma struggled in the middle of the field. They bring in Zach Alley. You go back to the Jacksonville State film. He asks his safeties to do so much. And I think you have two of the better safeties in the country in Peyton Bowen and Billy Bowman Jr. And I just can't wait to see how they get incorporated and just asked to do a little bit more and have a little bit more hands-on in terms of what this defense is doing. I'm probably with you that I think Texas might have the more talent. I mean, you squeezed out a guy in Terrence Brooks that, as Michigan fans, we are begging Terrence Brooks to come up to Ann Arbor. I love these safeties for Oklahoma. I think they have a great defensive-minded coach that wants to get them involved a little bit more. I don't feel great about it. I'm going to go Oklahoma. Two teams that I would love to see play better in the secondary because I think the talent is certainly there.
Yeah, and the one thing that holds you up for Texas, the talent was there last year, and that's the difficult part. Again, I think they got a little bit better in the safety room, adding Makuba, and obviously getting a year older, which is important when you have two true freshmen in Muhammad Williams who are playing a lot of ball. But it was there last year. I think somehow they got to get it out of them. I think Oklahoma, you say the same thing. I think they did make the right move to try to do it. So we'll see what happens. But I'm looking at Malik Muhammad, especially. He just is eye-popping.
You absolutely love Malik Muhammad. All right, that'll do it. Let it fly in the comments section. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Call us names. We'll chop it up with you guys. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.